This video does not contain medical advice. Everything is based on a review of 68-year-old Mike's personal observations while using milk thistle for 7 days and current research. Mike has been monitoring his health for many years. He likes herbal supplements, but never uses them indiscriminately. Therefore, before trying milk thistle, he consulted his doctor, clarified the dosage, and began a 7-day observation period. This experience gives us a window into how an aging body, especially that of a person over 60, responds to mild herbal changes. The reason Mike turned to the prickly pear cactus wasn't simple. For years, he had been feeling slight fluctuations in his energy levels, noticing that he wasn't waking up as refreshed as he used to in the mornings. Mental fatigue, minor forgetfulness, getting tired quickly while walking, these were all natural processes associated with age. "I'm not looking for miracles," Mike would say, "but even a little relief makes daily life easier." When he saw the research on milk thistle, he wondered how his body would respond to it. Milk thistle, scientifically known as Silybum marianum, is a classic herb often mentioned as a support for liver health. The compound silymarin found within it is known for its antioxidant effects. However, these effects are not definitive results. They are findings that carry the possibility of support. Mike knew this information. "I don't know what it will do," he said, "but I won't know how I feel unless I try it." This perspective formed the basis of the experiment. On the first day, after taking the prickly pear in the morning, Mike felt completely neutral. He wasn't expecting any noticeable effects in the first few hours anyway, but he carefully monitored himself to catch any small reactions his body might have to the new supplement. The first thing he noticed was a slight feeling of warmth. Some people attribute this to circulation, others think it's a placebo effect. Mike simply noted, "My body encountered something new." Later in the day, Mike wrote that he felt his mental fatigue had decreased. This feeling of mental fog is something many people over 60 are familiar with. It cannot be said that milk thistle directly clears the mind. However, some studies suggest that antioxidant supplements may affect mental clarity. It's not certain, it's not clear, but that's what Mike felt. Mike noticed that his energy levels were balanced by evening. There was no extraordinary difference, nor any negative effect. The absence of side effects reassured him, because safety is the most important issue for individuals over 60. "My body is calm," he wrote. "It was a simple but important observation." On the second day, Mike noticed something while preparing breakfast. Normally, when doing chores in the kitchen, he would occasionally pause and think, "What was I going to get?" That morning, those moments were fewer. It wasn't a huge difference, but small changes in routine are immediately noticeable at 60 plus. Mike didn't claim it was definitely the prickly pear. He just said, "That's how I felt today." When he sat down to read a book in the afternoon, he felt his eyes were less tired. This is described in the literature as a condition related to circulation and oxygenation. Again, it's not certain, but that's how Mike felt. This small change boosted his motivation. On the evening of the second day, Mike wrote about another situation he noticed: more fluid thinking. He felt that his speed of jumping from topic to topic had increased throughout the day, and that he was a little more comfortable finding words. These are very subtle changes, but they can feel very valuable when you are over 60. On the third day, Mike set himself a little test. He wouldn't write a shopping list. Normally, the list would get messy after 3 items, but this time he easily added 6 items. To him, it was a small but meaningful change. "It feels like I've made more room in my head," he said. He noticed that his speech was more fluent when he called a friend. With aging, there may be brief pauses when forming sentences. Mike observed that these pauses had decreased that day. This became one of the things that motivated him the most. When evening came, Mike wrote that the day had been calmer. Stinging nettle does not directly reduce anxiety. However, a general feeling of relaxation may be observed in some individuals. For Mike, the main theme of the third day was tranquility. On the fourth day, Mike went for a walk. Within the first few minutes, he noticed his breathing was more rhythmic. The change wasn't huge, but to him, the walk felt cleaner. In an older body, this difference is very important. During the walk, he felt a slight warmth in his hands and feet. This could be related to circulation, or it might not be. Mike wasn't just watching, he was observing. This warmth made him feel good. That night, Mike wrote that he fell into a deep sleep more easily. The prickly pear cactus has no direct effect on sleep. However, the comfort felt throughout the day may indirectly affect sleep quality. On the 5th day, Mike felt less tired while talking on the phone. Mental fatigue is particularly noticeable in older adults during social conversations. This small change pleased him. He usually experienced minor, meaningless worries throughout the day. That day, he wrote that these feelings were weaker. It wasn't a definite effect, but Mike's mood was calmer. He noticed he was progressing faster when he sat down to solve Sudoku. These types of activities are good for measuring mental fluidity. Mike described this small improvement as "my brain feeling like it's been oiled." On the 6th day, Mike was editing old photos digitally. Normally, he would get bored after 10 to 15 minutes. Today, he continued for over 30 minutes. He said he remembered scenes from the documentary he watched the day before more clearly. This meant he felt a slight improvement in his memory cycle. Mike wrote that evening, "This plant may have an effect, but not as much as is claimed." This sentence was the clearest expression of his scientific, cautious approach. On the 7th day, Mike woke up and felt his thoughts were flowing more smoothly. He wrote that his forgetfulness hadn't completely disappeared, but the delays had decreased. He felt lighter during the day. "It's not my body. It's my mind that feels light," he wrote. For an elderly body, this description means a lot. That evening, when he went for a walk, he noticed that his steps were more rhythmic and that fatigue set in a little later. Small differences, but differences that add up to greater comfort. At the end of 7 days, Mike's notes were laid out before us like a table. This table was based not on miraculous changes, but on small yet genuinely noticeable differences. Mike's notebook contained items that repeated over the 7 days. Increased mental clarity, occasional clearing of foggy thoughts, more organized thought flow, sentences coming more easily from the mind, mild circulation changes, sensations of warmth in the hands and feet, a smoother transition to sleep, feeling relaxed at the onset of sleep, less mental fatigue, especially feeling more at ease during social conversations, small but noticeable improvements in memory, like remembering lists or scenes from documentaries. None of these are definitive results. None of these are effects that everyone will experience. These are just Mike's feelings, small signs he experienced according to his own rhythm. And the sum of these small signs turned into Mike's statement, "I feel a little more regular," over the 7 days he experienced. The important thing in this section is this: in an aging body, small changes often make a big difference. That's why Mike's feelings are valuable. Mike had written 3 sentences at the end of his notebook. "I woke up clearer. I thought more fluently. I felt less tired." These 3 sentences were a simple signature summarizing the entire story of the 7 days. This 7-day experience shows us a very simple truth. The thistle does not create miracles, but sometimes what we call miracles are not major transformations. Sometimes a miracle is that little piece you felt was lost coming back, breathing more easily, getting less tired during a phone call, or being able to say, "I feel more organized today," when you wake up in the morning. That's exactly what Mike felt for 7 days. Tiny touches that softened his life. One morning, the mental fog arriving a little later, taking more steady steps on a walk. Thoughts flowing without colliding. Perhaps that 2-second delay decreasing. From the outside, it may seem very small, but for someone living in an aging body, when these small pieces come together, the result is this: life becomes a little easier, a little lighter, a little more fluid. Mike's story reminds us, aging doesn't stand before us like a wall. Aging is a rhythm that changes slowly. And sometimes what makes this rhythm more harmonious is not a major treatment, but a small awareness, a little support, a gentle herbal touch. This journey is different for everyone. Each step must be taken carefully, and if possible, with the guidance of an expert. But Mike's 7 days showed us this: aging doesn't stop, but changing how aging feels is sometimes much more possible than we think. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: the body changes, the mind changes, energy changes. But a person's curiosity, the desire to feel good, never ages.